After 1,300 miles with the Maxus T90EV, just how bad is it? Hello, I thought we were long overdue a Maxus T90EV update. It's very much just been being used as a little bit of a workhorse recently, and I've not really had the chance to give you any more insight into what it's actually like to live with. As you should know by now, if you've seen the previous videos, I've got this truck on lease for a year at a bargain £99 a month with a £99 deposit. If you don't know the full sort of backstory, it looks to me like Maxus brought a bunch of these over to the UK in late sort of 2022. They struggled to sell them, rather unsurprisingly, because the list price is 50 grand plus VAT for what is a fairly compromised pickup, and therefore nobody really wanted to buy them. Even on lease, on sort of normal terms, these were like 400 quid a month, something stupid like that. And then at the end of 2023, they decided it was time to get rid of them. So they basically, if your opinion on the phrase fire sale when referring to electric vehicles may vary, but they basically did a fire sale. They dumped a load of them to lease companies for next to nothing, and then we got these really, really cheap lease deals. And it was too cheap to say no to, really. So I sold my Renault Zoe, which was my daily at the time, and this is now my daily driver. So I've used this for a wide variety of stuff, whether that be just driving back and forth to the office, which some people might say is the typical use of a double cab pickup truck, where people like me that work as IT consultants drive them to their office job and don't actually particularly do anything that warrants having a pickup truck. And well, yeah, they may be right. But I've also used it for stuff that might be more becoming. So I've used it for tip runs, used it for moving some heavy furniture around, some slightly shonky load at the time, moving some furniture around. And I've also fitted a tow bar to it so that I can tow a trailer. The towing capacity, well, depending on who you ask, is up to 1,500 kilograms, which I know is a little bit on the light side for a pickup truck. Most diesel pickups will tow 3.5 tons quite happily. This doesn't. But depending on what you want to shift, it's still enough to be usable. So I've got a little single axle car trailer. I bought that primarily to move my Citroen around, so that will be hopefully what this will primarily be doing, because we're going to have a return to AMI content in a big way as we move in towards the summer months. And therefore it'll be shifting AMI around so I can go a little bit further afield than AMI's 46-mile range will let me. But in the meantime, I've been using it to move some actual cars around as well. If you are aware of my second channel, Hopeless Heroes, where I look at sort of cars at the bottom end of the market, which nobody particularly wants, I've been using it recently to move a little diesel Ford Ka around, which is sort of right on the weight limit of what the trailer and indeed the pickup will tow, and it handled it with absolute ease. You could barely tell there was anything on the back at all, to be honest. I suspect, like chassis wise and powertrain wise, this would actually be capable of towing at a far greater weight than it's rated for. Obviously, I'm not going to put that to the test because of the legal issues around being overweight and all that stuff. But it certainly seemed very capable. I was very happy with the way it tows. I didn't go very far. I mean, I picked up the car like 5 miles away and towed it to where it's currently stored, but it did the job with ease. People always ask me about what the fuel economy, I don't know what you call it, the economy, the consumption is like when you are towing with this particular EV. I don't quite know the answer yet because I haven't done it over long distance, but as soon as I get the chance to actually take the trailer with the car on it any kind of distance, I'll be able to let you know what the consumption looks like while towing. Getting a hold of a tow bar and particularly an electrics kit wasn't particularly easy, however. I did manage to source the tow bar from a Maxus main dealer. That bit was simple enough. But they sold me an electric kit alongside it that was actually for the Maxus eDeliver 3 van. And it was completely different to what would be required for the T90EV. They told me that having consulted with Maxus, That was the only kit that they could supply, and it was compatible with the T90EV, but it would have meant modifying wiring looms, running wires the entire length of the truck to the battery up front, and just generally doing far more work than is necessary, because the Maxus T90EV has pre-wiring for towing. There's a wiring loom with an unused plug basically that hangs down underneath the driver's side rear light, and if you have the right wiring kit, you can plug in there. You don't need to run any wires to the 12-volt battery, you don't need to do anything like that, it just plugs in and it works. But Maxus, and in particular the UK dealers, are unable to supply that. Now, I did manage to source the kit. I sourced it from an eBay seller in Germany, and it went on, it plugged and played, and it's absolutely spot on. So we've got the Towbar that was supplied by the main dealer, and a wiring kit that very much was not. But I feel okay about it, because the wiring kit was manufactured by the same manufacturer as the eDeliver 3 kit that the main dealer supplied, so I think it'll be absolutely fine. But the faff that would have been involved in fitting what Maxus supplied me with was huge, and therefore I think using this other kit was the right thing to do. So we've now got fully functional Towbar and electrics. Cost all in was about 450 quid, which I think for a modern car isn't actually that bad. I mean, that was supply only. I fitted it myself, but I guess if you were getting someone to fit it, you maybe be, I don't know, about 700 quid, something like that would be what you'd be looking at. So if you're interested in towing with the T90EV, that is the kind of money you'll be looking at. And all in all, I'm still really enjoying this car. So you get used to the ride quality thing. You know, the back end sort of bounces around when it's unladen. It even does it when you've got the trailer on the back. So literally, unless you have weight in the bed, it bounces around quite a lot. And we saw that in some of the early videos when I didn't have the image stabilization turned on the camera and the footage was very shaky. That very much is the order of the day with this thing. But you do get used to it, and I barely even notice it these days. The only time recently it's even been remotely surprising to me was when I had the trailer on the back with a car on it, and I could still, so I was still bouncing around. I thought it was a little bit odd, but you get used to it. And everything is pretty good. The one thing I really don't like is the built-in sort of infotainment. I think it's pretty useless. I mean, you've got an FM radio that doesn't even have RDS. So you've got to manually tune it to a frequency, and then it doesn't even tell you what station it is. I mean, for a 2024 or whatever vehicle, that is ridiculous. Let's be honest. It's just not, I haven't seen cars without RDS for years. So much like the MG ZS EV that I used to have, you've got to just use CarPlay in order for it to be any use whatsoever. And I've heard from some people that have Android phones that any integration it has with Android is not worth using at all, and actually you want to have a third-party adapter for Android Auto or also for wireless Apple CarPlay. I find myself, if I've got a vehicle that is heavily dependent on CarPlay, having it wireless really helps, because then you get in and it just works. You don't need to worry about plugging your phone in, you just get in, it connects and it works. And so that brings me on to this video's sponsor. So Ottocast very kindly sent me their Otto AI Box P3 in order to test it, and I can't think of a better car to test it in than the Maxus T90EV, because like I say, one of its biggest shortcomings is the infotainment system. So as always, we'll get it out of the box and we'll take a closer look at it. So yeah, this was the smart AI box that I reviewed previously. You can see there's quite a difference in size, but hopefully that means there'll be quite a difference in performance too. It's not too bad, this one, but it can be a little bit clunky sometimes. So I've plugged this in then, and it's now loading up. One thing, criticism I've got of all of these types of products is that the loading times can be a little bit annoying. You turn the ignition on, it takes a little while to get going. One of the things that's a bit different about this Ottocast unit is it is a full sort of Android box, so it's not just about connecting your phone. It can actually do stuff itself as well. Much like the smart AI box I reviewed previously, it has some built-in apps and stuff on this unit itself, so you don't necessarily need to just connect your phone. You can actually use stuff natively on here if you want to. So these things are always a little bit funny when you first plug them in. So I think what it does, it starts up, it then works out what screen resolution you have to play with, and then it reboots so that it can sort that out. So although this looks like it's quite slow because it's had to like restart itself, it only does that the first time you plug it in. So then you see we have like a user interface here with like YouTube, Spotify, Netflix, etc., which is all again. I don't think I'd ever endorse having like YouTube and stuff on in your car, but for an electric car where you're going to be charging, it could be quite handy to have those available to you, so you can sit and watch stuff on YouTube while you're charging. Obviously, you'd need a mobile data connection in order to use those, so you'd need to connect it to your phone or some Wi-Fi anyway in order to use those. But there are options that are there. You can change the lighting on the box itself, should you want to. Maybe if you're desperate to make it match your interior. I don't think that's much of a concern in the Maxus, but it's an option that's there for you. So now you can see we have the full Apple CarPlay experience here wirelessly, and that it all seems really snappy, really responsive, which is pretty cool. So the Otto AI box seems to do the trick nicely. I'll be trying this out in here because, like I say, I do find it really useful in here. So I'll be trying it out over the next few weeks, and I'm going to give you a bit of an update on how it performs longer term. That was the Otto AI Box P3. Quite a nice looking bit of kit. There's a link in the description if you want to find out more about it. As I say, I'm going to use that in here over the next few weeks. We'll see what it's like, and then I can give you a little bit of a follow-up and maybe a better idea of whether it's worth buying or not. It can be quite hard when reviewing these things. You know, I can demonstrate that it works, and we do that, but if it actually turns out that, you know, it's not great or whatever, then there's no better way to tell that than using it and actually getting a feel for how it works. But it looks pretty good. It certainly seems really responsive and stuff. Startup time's quite good once it's done that first initial setup, so it does look pretty good. So all in all, like I said, I am enjoying life with the Maxus T90EV. 1,300 miles in, everything is really, really good. I was quite surprised at the debacle that resulted in trying to get the Towbar wiring. Suggests that the Maxus dealer network and Maxus themselves aren't the best to deal with. I don't know what that's going to mean long term when it comes to, you know, repairs and parts and all that kind of stuff, but certainly just what was a fairly simple request, they didn't seem particularly well geared up for it, and I wasn't particularly impressed. This expecting you to bodge something in that isn't made for this vehicle at all is not really the vibe you expect when you ask a main dealer to provide parts for you. And the wiring kit they were trying to sell me, which wasn't the right one, was as expensive as the one I ended up importing that was the right one. So it's not like it was cheaper or anything like that either. And let's be honest, when you go to a main dealer for genuine parts, even though they are just from the same manufacturer anyway, you would expect them to fit well and be the right thing. And so the fact they wasn't that impressive, really. But well, this is just going to carry on basically being a bit of a workhorse. I might be able to bring you some more in-depth information about towing and stuff. See if we can get some longer distance stuff planned, and then we can look at how the economy and stuff works. For those of you that like to ask about economy in general, the consumption is in the region of 2 miles per kilowatt hour. Might be shocking to some of you that are used to more economical stuff. Might be a surprise if you actually thought it was going to be worse than that. That generally seems to be where you are. So it means if you are going to be using like public rapid chargers with this, it's going to be pretty expensive. But still, charging at home as I do on Octopus Intelligent, it's really, really cheap still to run, even though it's like really thirsty in EV terms. But if I had one of these and didn't have home charging, I think I'd be in for a shock how much it would cost to run. Because even, you know, a diesel pickup isn't going to be economical. You're going to be talking about like 30 miles to the gallon, but that would still be significantly cheaper than running one of these on public chargers. So if cheap motoring's your goal, this isn't really the truck for you. That was a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of what life is like with the T90EV. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to know more about, and I'll see if we can keep bringing these sort of periodic updates where I can tell you how things are. But all in all, pretty good so far. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.